It certainly does. He's a Mar-a-Lago member who's got $20 billion net worth. Half of it's tied up in ByteDance. Why a US billionaire is allowed to have a majority of his net worth tied up in a Chinese company. Very interesting. Anyway, we'll continue to move past it. The whole point in all of this, though, is there's also been an organic backlash. And this may surprise people. I'm really enjoying it. So lots of Americans are now downloading Chinese social media apps as a screw you to the government for banning TikTok. Some of those apps include, and I'm going to butcher this in Mandarin, I'm really sorry. Is it Zhizhongshu or Zhaohongshu? That's what we're going to go with. And also RedNote. Zhaohongshu RedNote is a Chinese social media kind of TikTok competitor, but also has a like messaging function on it. The fascinating part of this has been Americans interacting with actual Chinese netizens. It's the first time in almost 20 years that has happened, which I think is great. So let's go ahead and show people some of what we have got. Here we've got some creators just marveling over Chinese infrastructure. She says, your mind is about to be blown at what I found on RedNote, and she's showing off that. Here we have a creator just reminding all of the new Americans that this is a safe Chinese space. We need to respect the rules that are on this platform and not bring our American bullshit. I actually like it. That's how all Americans should act whenever they go to Asia. Shut your mouth, stop being so loud, eat the food that's put in front of you, and observe local customs. This was great. I love this. I didn't know China was so beautiful. Does China really look like this? So this is what I was wanting to talk to you about. There seems to be this like lib and leftist consideration that Americans have been psyoped into believing China is like some backwards nation. I don't think that is the case. I think this is actually just a matter of people being completely uninformed, because if anybody had, if you've been listening to me at least on China and others, what's the number one thing? They're getting ahead of us. I respect them. It's not in terms of, oh, they're these backwards, horrible people. I'm like, no, you don't understand. They're lapping us on multiple different industries. In many ways, they have a better quality of life in some cities and others than American citizens do, which also appears to be shocking to people. So my take on this is it's great. I think it's great that Americans are getting to talk to Chinese people on their social media apps. The question for the Chinese is, are they going to continue to allow that?
Yeah. So, Well, it's an interesting question for them, because on the one hand, you know, it makes it so it's harder to control, right? And you have this, I mean, I think this sort of cultural exchange is a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's great.
Massive support of it. Pro. I think the more that we interface with people from other countries and see them as just human beings going about their lives and doing their thing with personalities and sense of humor and whatever, I think that is a beautiful thing. I also think, I don't know what conceptions people have in their head about China, but I do know that most of the coverage from Western media about the country of China is quite negative. So, you know, having interface with just regular Chinese people and being like, these are nice people, I like this person, like, you know, they're just like me in a lot of ways, I think that is a net positive. You know, for the Chinese government, on the one hand, it's kind of like tremendous soft power that they're you know, they're having access to right now, because they are the perception of China and what the country is like and what the people are like among young people in this country who have been more willing than other generations. I mean, they're just not locked in this like Cold War mentality. They're not locked in the mentality around Israel. They're not locked into some of the previous preconceptions. So minds are a bit more open to start with. You know, I think that is, I think the Chinese government probably sees that as a tremendous asset and boom. On the other hand, you know, they want to control. They have exercised much more tight control on their social media than we do, even from the perspective of just like, they don't let young people in their country have the screen time that we have. So they see social media, and in some ways they're very correct about this, about some of the incredibly deleterious effects of social media on our own young people. And so they're more like sensitive to those concerns. And then also they're obviously like censorious in certain ways, and there are certain topics they don't want brushed whatsoever. So it is an interesting,
This is what a friend of mine, Rush Doshi.
But I've been loving it. But I would say bottom line, I've been loving it. I've been enjoying the exchange, you know, the things that are popping up on Twitter. It's funny.
If you think China is backwards, you're an idiot, okay? I mean, Shenzhen is probably one of the world's most advanced cities. I'm totally blanking on the guy's name right now. He's a car reviewer reviewer. I think his name is Forrest. I'm gonna go with that. He does some of the best car reviews in the business, and he does a ton of Chinese EVs. BYD will lap a Tesla and any American-made EV by a mile.
There's a reason why we have to have protectionist policies vis-a-vis EVs, because they're kicking our ass.
I'm forgetting the guy's name. Warren Buffett's billionaire partner who died, Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger, I listened to the last interview he gave before he died, and he said that the founder of BYD is the single smartest person he ever met, the greatest inventor. He was like, I would have put more money into him if I possibly could have. Just so people know, I have deep, deep respect for a lot of these people. I've also been to China. I was very young. I was like 16, 17 or whatever when I went. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. Specifically, the Great Wall of China is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my whole life. The Forbidden City, it's incredible. They have an amazing history. I have nothing but respect for these people. And in fact, it's my respect which makes me fear them. But a question here with Rush Doshi, let's put E4 please up on the screen, is Rush makes this point. As Americans flood Zhaojiangshu, which is what we're going with, we're seeing a lot more direct online interaction between the US and PRC citizens. But the PRC has not always welcomed that, which is partly why it has banned foreign social media. So the success of the app is a major test for PRC authorities. He follows up. Candidly, I've enjoyed seeing the interaction. It reminds me of an earlier, more hopeful era of US-China people-to-people interaction on the internet, which is 20 years old now. And that's precisely why I would be nervous if I was an executive of that company right now. Previously, we have seen this. Facebook nuked, Google nuked, and they nuked these things early. And when I visited in 2009, I want to say, that's when we were in high school and we were very on Facebook. There was no Facebook. That was the first time I ever went to a country and I'm like, I can't use Facebook. Same with Google. It was shocking. I remember even then, I mean, almost 15 years ago or so now. So that's the reality of what life is like in China. All of their actions around ByteDance have showed us this. Again, people don't seem to understand this. TikTok, it might be a Chinese company. It's not what they use in China. They have their own version. I think it's called Douyin. And Douyin has screen time restrictions, 1 hour a day for people who are teenagers. If you're an OnlyFans model, yeah, good luck. You're getting nuked. If you're like a little influencer girl who's promoting consumerism, nuked. If you are promoting transgenderism or gender ideology, nuked. If you are promoting hard work and filial piety to the Communist Party, all of a sudden you're a nice little influencer there. So just so people know, the difference between actual Chinese social media and American social media is gigantic for what it actually shows. But in general, I have been really enjoying this American cultural exchange. As people know, I don't like Europe. I encourage people, if you're able to visit China, go for it. I know a lot of people who did study abroad programs there. They absolutely loved it. Immerse yourself in the culture. It's cool. It's like an alien society because they do things totally differently. Their evolution of tech is incredible. What they did is, because they skipped Facebook, Google, and everything on the MacBook, everything in China is on the phone. They pay for all of their stuff with their phones. All their social media, Uber, everything, it's one of the world's most convenient societies. Now, it has some downside with social credit score. It also, if you piss off the government, your phone stops working, your payments stop working. You need, permits to be able to leave your village and to be able to go from one place to another. You should ask them about that on Zhaojiangshu. But yeah, look, I'm enjoying people learning more about the world, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. It's earnest and it's sweet, and I think anytime we can break down those human-to-human barriers is a good thing. This is also kind of funny. Apparently, the interest in learning Mandarin has skyrocketed.
That's good.
Duolingo is, seizing on this moment as well. I can put this up on the screen, which is kind of funny to say, so now you're learning Mandarin, and they've been putting out a bunch of tweets about. And also, I did see a graph just showing the tremendous spike in people who are trying to learn Mandarin, or at least the basics, who have had their interest sparked by this whole thing. So it's just sort of funny and ironic that the attempt to ban TikTok over concerns about Chinese influence and infiltration, whatever, has led to this response of people learning on a very visceral human-to-human basis way more about China than they ever had before. So
caricatures of people are never accurate. China is a country of 1.1 billion? Even saying Chinese people is insane, right? You have all all of these different provinces.
Minority groups.
There are so many different, which they don't like to talk about. Ask them about that too. Ask them about Han Chinese domination and how they feel about that. You've got multiple. Well, actually, they're on one time zone, which is insane. like people in Tibet are on the same time zone as in Beijing and have to keep the same time. But it's a